Hey, horror fans, once again, it is me, the Horror Miser Money G. It's time to review the latest science fiction horror film. It is called The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Yes.
Don't fuck with them hoes.
Now, The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster is a 2023 American science fiction horror film. It was written and directed by Bomani J. Story and is based upon Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Now, the film stars Layla Leon Hayes, Denzel Whitaker, Chad L. Coleman, Riley Brooks Synth, and Iman Atsu Sawenzi. I believe I pronounced his name correctly. Now, in this film, Virika is a brilliant teenager who believes death is a disease and it can be cured. Ooh. After the brutal murder of her brother, she embarks on a dangerous journey to bring him back to life. Oh, hence Frankenstein. I get it now. Now, horror fans, we've come a long way on how African Americans have been treated in horror films, both in front of and behind the camera. We're finally getting our dues respect. I mean, first of all, we're no longer the first to die in slasher films, and we're not given stereotypical roles that we see in other horror films. I mean, thanks to the success of film director Jordan Peele, from Get Out, Us, and Nope, many African American actors and actresses has proven that they can carry a horror film. Yes, almost all those films and certain other horror films are showing that you can actually cast a black actor or actress and they can carry a horror film. We don't have to be the first to die. Now, that has allowed other African American filmmakers to be given a chance to create horror films, such as Nita DaCosta with 2022's Candyman, and earlier this year, Tim Story with the 2022 horror comedy film, The Blackening. So, writer-director Bomani J. Story, in his directorial debut, brings us his entry into the subgenre of horror called The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Now, we're introduced to 17-year-old Vererica, who, despite living in a neighborhood of violence, drugs, and police brutality, is a highly intelligent girl. Way to go. Now, after seeing both her mother and her brother Chris die from drug gangs in the neighborhood, she believes that death is a disease and she can cure it. Now, this leads Victoria down a path where she does the unthinkable, and it leads to deadly consequences for everyone that lives in her neighborhood. That's kind of what the film is about. When seeing this film, you can tell that Bomani was inspired by Mary Shelley's 1880 novel Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. In fact, the notes that Victoria uses in her experiments is actually called the Modern Prometheus. It has her name on it, but it's obviously coming from Mary Shelley's novel. Now, as he stated in interviews, Bomani said he remembers watching monster films with his sister and always wondered what would a horror film such as Universal Monsters Frankenstein would be like if it tackled issues involving people such as African Americans. So what he does a great job in blending in the themes that plague African Americans, such as police brutality, drug gangs, and drive-by shootings. He combines those elements into his film here. Now, while you see some similarities between Victoria here and Victor Frankenstein, their motivations for creating their monsters are totally different. Now, while Victor's was simply trying to prove his critics wrong regarding his theories about to bring the dead back to life, Victoria is more about her grief and her wanting to see her dead brother again. It's like she already went through the process of seeing her mother die in a drive-by shooting. The next thing you know, her brother, several years later, goes to the same thing. So she doesn't have any time to process her grief or find some way. So the only outlet she has is, hey, look, I'm going to prove that death is disease and I have the cure, so I'm going to do it by bringing my dead brother back to life. Now, Bomani does a good job in how well the film looks, and I like how he uses the setting as something different that we haven't seen in a horror film like this one. We get to see how she lives, how Victoria lives. She lives in a neighborhood, looks like the project, somewhat similar to projects I grew up back during the 70s. We see how she goes throughout the neighborhood, how she interacts with all the people there, and how she also interacts with the known drug dealers as well. So it's a different type of setting that we've seen before in the horror movies. Now, Layla Leon Hayes, known for playing Queen Latifah's daughter in the hit TV show The Equalizer, she really shines as Victoria. She plays her as a smart, intelligent girl who was driven by grief and sadness that leads her into wanting to bring her brother brother back. And we see how she plays into that role. She really does a fine job, and it's mainly her performance that really carries the film. I mean, she has great chemistry with all the other actors, especially child actors Riley Brooks Synth, who as President Sims, who plays in childhood plays. I think she's the daughter of her brother's fiance, who's pregnant with her child, and the veteran actor Chad L. Coleman from The Wire, and Oz, who plays her father, Donald. Now, while the film looks good and there was some decent practical effects, there was some problems with some of the editing. There's one problem where it kind of goes back and forth. We really don't get there's some very terrible editing right there, especially when Chris starts killing people. And unfortunately, it's all done off screen. Maybe there were some budgetary reasons, the reason why. Not that the kills weren't bad, because, like I said, you have some great practical effects, but they're all done off screen. Now, one of the problems I have with the film is how the tone changes in between, I would say, right around the second act of the film. There's this one scene that takes place that changes the pace of the film. And I believe that Bomini wanted to show Valkyria enjoying herself with her father and her brother's girlfriend and her family. It's a nice scene, it's well acted, but it really changes the scope of the film and where we're going to. And it kind of like there's some reason why he does it, but it does seem, for me, it doesn't fit the type of tone he was trying to set here. Another issue that I have with the film is that we really don't get to see what type of relationship Victoria had with Chris. We know that she loved him, but what kind of person Chris was, because the only thing we know about him was that he became a gang member after his mother was killed and eventually wound up leading to his death. But what type of, did he actually did enjoy his time? How did he deal with mother death? Well, he doesn't really give us a chance to get any character development with Chris's character. All we know is that he's dead and she's trying to bring him back to life. But I really wanted to see some more character build up with Chris and his relationship with Valkyria. Now, also, the events that happen at the end of the film might not satisfy all horror fans, and I believe that Valkyria should have learned that there are consequences to their actions, be it good ones or bad ones. Now, I'm not going to spoil what happens at the end of the film, but I believe it's kind of a bit of a cop out to me. If you have seen the film, you know what I'm talking about right there. I think it was a different type of ending, and I think perhaps she would have learned her lesson, knowing that there are there are consequences for her actions. She should have paid the price for that one. So, despite the good acting from the lead actresses and some decent practical effects, I actually did like the makeup effects they had on Chris. But Bamini misses the mark on some parts of the film. Kind of the bad editing and some mispacing of the film. But it's still a pretty good job in the first outing behind the camera. I believe once he gets more experiences with editing and knowing how to take certain aspects of the film and keep the tone right, I think he could be a pretty good director. So I'm going to give The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster 2 out of my 5 bloody gold coins. It's not a bad outing. It's not a bad horror film, but like I said, because of the different tonal shifts and some terrible editing, I only can give it a 2 out of my 5 bloody gold coins. But I believe, given some more practice, I believe he's going to be a pretty good director. And there you have it, folks. That is my review and video of The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up, like, and share, because it does help out with that YouTube algorithm. Also, have you seen this film? Leave your comments in your comment section below and tell me your thought about the film. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscriber button. Ring that notification bell. That way we notify anytime when I put a new video such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G, and always remember that horror rules. And I see you in my next video. Guys, stay safe out there.